You ever get fined $300 for shoveling snow at 5 in the morning? Yeah, me neither, until it happened to me. And that, right there, is how my perfectly uneventful, mind-your-own-business suburban life got spun upside down. Picture this, a sleepy December morning in Minnesota. Me, Franklin Porter, 34, mostly invisible remote tech worker, standing in my kitchen, clutching a certified letter from the Pine Valley Homeowners Association like it's a ransom note. Disturbing the peace, it says. By shoveling snow. You know what I mean? Who knew snow could be criminal? Let me back up a sec. 8 months before all this, I'd moved into Pine Valley Heights, a fresh, almost too tidy development just outside Minneapolis. The kind of neighborhood where every mailbox matches and you feel guilty if your trash can sit out for more than an hour. Honestly, at first, I loved it. Everything was so clean, so safe, so... Stepford. The HOA rules. Whatever. No junked cars, keep your grass short, paint your house one of 6 approved shades of beige. Fine by me. I'd lived in sketchy rentals long enough to crave some order. Then, Minnesota winter rolled in like an avalanche. I had a deadline for work, so when that first blizzard dumped 6 inches overnight, I was out there with my old-school shovel at 5 a.m. Bundled up, breathing little clouds into the orange streetlight haze. No snowblower. I was being thoughtful, right? I didn't even have headphones on. Just me, the snow, and the soft scrape, scrape, scrape echoing down the silent block. 45 minutes later, job done. Felt good. 3 days later, I'm standing in my pajamas, reading that letter. Fine, deadline, threats of additional penalties. Signed by one Brenda Hutchkins, HOA president. Brenda, as I'd come to learn, is a force of nature. The letter cited Section 12, subsection D, which supposedly forbade loud or disruptive activities between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. I grabbed my copy of the bylaws, still smelling faintly of printer ink, and sure enough, no power tools, no loud music, no engine repairs. Hand shoveling? Nowhere. So, I did what any rational person would do. I called Brenda. She picked up, and before I could even finish explaining, she cut me off. I determine what constitutes a disturbance, Mr. Porter. The fine stands. When I asked about an appeal, she practically laughed. My decisions are rarely overturned. Then she hung up. Welcome to Pine Valley. I spent the next hour doom-scrolling through Minnesota HOA law. Spoiler alert, it's not designed for people like me. HOAs are little empires with a scary amount of power, and dragging them to court costs more than my car. The best advice? Play along. I wrote my appeal, citing every line in the book, uploaded it to their portal, and crossed my fingers. Winter kept wintering. More snow, more rules. Now I waited until 7 a.m. sharp to shovel, even if it meant missing meetings. That's when I started noticing things, a subtle shift in the way I looked at the world around me. Brenda's massive colonial at the end of Oakwood Court? Tasteful, except for the tacky lawn ornament that broke her own tasteful decorations only clause. Timothy Walsh, another board member, left his pickup in the street every night. Brenda's adult son? His beat-up sedan left muddy tire tracks on her lawn all winter, not a word said. Suddenly, I'm the only villain in town? But Brenda's house, man, that was the real story. Corner lot, prime location for snowplows to dump mountains of slushy ice, sometimes 4 feet high. Every storm, I'd see her and her husband out there, bundled up, cursing under their breath, battling the plow wall while I cleared my own, admittedly much smaller, pile in 20 minutes. It started as a passing thought, then it grew. If I can't shovel early, why shovel at all? Why go out of my way for people who play favorites? The next blizzard hit right before Christmas. National Weather Service said 1.5 feet, heavy and wet. I cleared just enough snow at 7 a.m. to technically comply. My driveway. A mess. Brenda's? Buried alive. I watched as their ancient snowblowers sputtered and died, then watched them switch to shovels. Around 10 a.m. There she was at my door, red-faced, breathless, asking if I'd help them dig out. Offered to pay, too. I looked her right in the eye and said, I appreciate you asking, Brenda, but I'm trying to minimize my disruptive activities. She didn't appreciate the irony. This is different, she pleaded. It's Christmas. I told her there were plenty of plow services around, and shut the door as gently as I could. I felt a twinge of guilt for her husband. He looked about ready to collapse, but then I remembered how quick Brenda had been to slap me with that fine. And the guilt evaporated. Word spread, as it always does in these places. My neighbor Carl, been there since the beginning, saw what was happening. Passive resistance, huh? He said, half smirking. Good for you, son. He had his own Brenda war stories. A $200 fine for having his garbage can out too early. Turns out, half the neighborhood had stories, too. Brenda fined people for the wrong shade of Christmas lights, for lawn ornaments, for, well, breathing wrong, apparently. But if you were on Brenda's good side, anything went. That winter, the snow just kept coming. Brenda's driveway got worse and worse. Her husband's health started slipping. An ambulance visit, chest pains, the works. I wondered if I was going too far, but every time I saw another letter from the HOA, my resolve hardened. And then came the twist, a $150 fine for inadequate snow removal. I laughed, loudly. Selective enforcement much? This time, I didn't just appeal, I documented everything. Photos of my driveway, of Timothy's, of Brenda's. I started researching HOA law, discovered that selective enforcement was actually illegal, and prepared for battle. The next board meeting was packed. Word had spread. I laid out my case, showed all my photos, even cited state statutes. Patricia Simmons, usually silent, finally spoke up. Brenda, he has a point. We haven't been consistent. The board tabled the fine. Tiny win, but a win. Patricia pulled me aside in the parking lot, whispered that she and another board member were planning to run against Brenda in April. She warned me, too. Be careful. Brenda doesn't like being challenged. She was right. Not 2 weeks later, I got a special assessment for $500 for community snow removal costs. 3 of us got it, the 3 who'd challenged fines. Ridiculous, right? I paid, but decided enough was enough. Carl and I started quietly organizing. Coffee meetings, phone calls, building a coalition of folks sick of Brenda's nonsense. Turns out, there were a lot of us. Patricia, armed with receipts, budget docs showing thousands paid to a consulting firm owned by Brenda's son, joined the meetings. Another board member, David Chun, was right there with her. The election came. For the first time, people actually cared. Turnout was huge. Patricia, David, and Margaret Foster, the reform slate, won. Brenda lost, and the look on her face was something I'll remember forever. Stunned, angry, then resigned. The new board promised transparency, fairness, common sense. Brenda, true to form, didn't go quietly. She stonewalled the transition, hid records, shredded documents. Seriously, neighbors saw her husband running a paper shredder in their garage. It escalated. Lawyers, restraining orders, police threats. When the dust settled, Patricia's forensic audit uncovered close to $90,000 missing. Brenda had been writing herself checks, using the HOA card for personal trips, funneling money to her son's company for fake consulting. The county prosecuted. Brenda was arrested, charged, and convicted. 3 years in prison, full restitution, the whole 9 yards. I testified at the trial, not for the money stuff, but to establish the pattern, fines, retaliation, abuse of power. I can't lie, seeing her in handcuffs on the local news, I felt both vindicated and, well, sad. How do people go from community leader to thief? Afterwards, things changed. Pine Valley Heights became a real community. Patricia rewrote the bylaws. You could shovel snow anytime you wanted, as long as you kept it reasonable. The HOA published its finances online. People started coming to meetings because they wanted to, not because they were afraid. I got more involved, even joined the board. The rules made sense now, and conflicts. Yeah, they still happened, but they got solved by talking, not by fines and letters. We killed off a bunch of petty rules. Added due process for appeals. The whole vibe changed. The best part? New families started moving in because they'd heard about what we'd done, because of our HOA, not despite it. I helped neighbors clear snow just because I wanted to, not because I had to. Even Jim and Linda, who bought Brenda's old place, sweetest couple, retired teachers, became good friends. There was one last twist, though. One afternoon, a woman showed up, Brenda's sister. She told me Brenda's daughter had died in a car accident a few years back, and that's when Brenda started spiraling, controlling what she could, blurring lines. She's in therapy now. She wanted me to apologize to you. I didn't know what to say. It didn't excuse what happened, but it made her human. I told her I hoped Brenda could heal and move forward. You know, some people thought I was too forgiving. Others thought I was too harsh. The comments section on my blog, oh yeah, I started a blog, HOA Accountability Matters, blew up after I wrote about Brenda's apology. People are passionate about justice, about fairness. Some wanted her locked up forever. Others wanted a chance for her to make things right. I found myself thinking about what real justice is. Is it just punishment? Or does it mean helping people change? Anyway, life kept rolling. Brenda served her time, moved away, and we moved on. The neighborhood thrived. The community garden project happened, playgrounds got new equipment, rules actually helped people instead of tripping them up. And every winter since, when the snow starts to fall, I shovel whenever I want, 5 a.m., noon, whenever. Sometimes I even smile, thinking back to that first find and how it changed everything. And if a new neighbor asks why the HOA isn't crazy strict anymore, I tell them it's because a bunch of us finally got tired of being pushed around. One little act of stubbornness can ripple out further than you'd ever expect. So let me ask you, where do you draw the line between standing up for yourself and just letting things slide? What would you have done if you were in my shoes that winter? Have you ever fought a petty injustice that spiraled into something bigger? Share your thoughts down below, stories, opinions, even if you disagree. I'm genuinely curious how you all see justice and community, and where the line is between right and wrong, rules and fairness. Let's get a real conversation going.